right, welcome everyone. This is Israelite in America. Coming at you today with one. This video I don't think is going to be very long, somewhat short, but there's a couple things I want to go through. So, no ado here. I'm sure most of you guys, if not all of you guys, have already heard this story by now, but it's one I wanted to comment on just because I am sick. I am absolutely sick of these. I've heard the term. I didn't coin this term, but I've heard it, and I think it's a good one. These gang members with badges getting away with wickedness. And what am I talking about? Full disclosure, this story is probably not suitable for children, though I would recommend you parents, fathers especially, tell your children about this story and others like it and educate them, because the day could come when they are faced with this situation, if they haven't already, or at least a similar situation. Hopefully the day won't come when they're faced with something this heinous. But okay, anyway, let's pull up the story here. Okay, Mississippi. Okay, this is the state of Mississippi. 6 white cops plead guilty to torturing 2 black men. Now we're going to kind of go through this story, and I'm going to try to. I don't want this video to be too long, so we're going to kind of go through this story, and I'm going to provide some commentary. So fair use. This is from what website is this? The nycaribnews.com. I think Caribbean News, maybe the New York Carib News. No, not Caribbean News. My bad. The New York Carib News. Don't know much about this particular publication, and that's not the point, but just in case you guys wanted to go and find the story yourself. Okay, it says, on Monday, 6 white former Mississippi law enforcers pleaded guilty to torturing 2 black men in a racist attack. The officers nicknamed themselves the Goon Squad because of their willingness to use excessive force and cover up attacks, including the assault that ended with a deputy shooting one victim in the mouth. Okay, yeah. So already with this is starting off horrendous. I promise you it's as bad as it sounds. The former officers included 5 former Rankin County Sheriff's deputies, Brett McAlpin, Hunter Elward, and yeah, we're going to say their names so you guys know who these people are, this scum. Christian Dedman, Jeffrey Middleton, and Daniel Opdyke, something like that, and a former police officer from the city of Richland, Joshua Hartfield. The incident happened in January. Okay, we're in August right now. This thing happened all the way back in January and culminated into a 60-minute torture session. The officers entered a house without a warrant, handcuffed and assaulted the 2 men with stun guns, an SEX toy, monetization, and other objects. They were mocked with racial slurs. Then the officers devised a cover-up that included planting drugs and a gun, leading to false charges against the victims, Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker. So, in really quick terms, so far the story is telling us they broke into someone's house, beat, tortured, and abused these guys, actually assaulted these guys, and then devised a cover-up. And these were all officers that did this. The officer's scheme went awry when one of them told the sheriff he had lied, leading to confessions from the others. That's interesting. I'm going to comment on that in a minute. Only after federal and state investigators got involved did the charges against the victims drop 6 months later. So they charged these guys. They charged these victims that they beat and assaulted and tortured. The victims were present on Monday for the hearing and sat in the front row. The accused will be sentenced in November. Time will include what they've already served for the state convictions. And will run concurrently with the federal time. Okay, so if you guys, let me go to another story, because you don't just read one story. This was short, and this gave you guys the point, but there's a couple of things I want to go into here. Where is that? Okay, this is from usatoday.com. In case you wanted to find the story for yourself. Ex-officers plead guilty to more charges after beating Actual assault of black men in Mississippi. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this whole story, but there's some, this adds some even more context onto what we've already read. Let's see. 5 former Rankin County Sheriff's deputies and another officer pleaded guilty Monday to home invasion, aggravated assault, conspiracy to commit obstruction of justice, and obstruction of justice nearly 2 weeks after pleading guilty to more than a dozen federal charges in the same incident. So they got more charges slapped at them. Each one agreed to sentences recommended by state prosecutors ranging from 5 to 30 years, although the judge isn't bound by that, the Associated Press reported. So, the sentences are ranging from 5 to 30 years each, so they're not going to serve all 30 years. That's just, they're not serving the 30 years. Time served for the state charges will run concurrently with the federal sentences. Okay, yes, we got that. Each could get longer prison sentences in federal court in November, but they won't. The law enforcement officer, okay, we read their names already. Called the Goon Squad, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so this is from these are the names of the victims. Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker. These are the victims. They said the officers burst into a home without a warrant on January 24th. The men said deputies beat them, assaulted them with an SEX toy, and shocked them repeatedly with stun guns over roughly 90 minutes. 90 minutes they had these guys on the ground, beating them, torturing them. There's other details here later, but 90 minutes. 90 minutes. So an hour, imagine being an hour held at gunpoint for an hour and a half tortured. This is like something out of an old Western or a movie about the dating back to the 60s, set in the 60s or the 50s in America. Jenkins said one of the deputies shoved a gun in his mouth and fired the weapon. So they shot one of the gentlemen. Shot him in the mouth. Now, luckily, he survived. Not all people in an incident like this do survive. This brutal attack caused more than physical harm to these 2 individual victims. It severed that vital trust with the people, Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch previously said in a statement. Okay. I'm trying to hold some commentary here for later. Hold on. Just want to give you guys the meat first. Rankin County Sheriff, okay, pay attention to this. Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey said the deputies involved had been fired in June, but he would not initially identify them, say how many law enforcement officers were fired, or answer additional questions about the incident. So the guy, they're fired. I fired them, but I'm not going to tell you who they are, and I'm not going to answer any more questions. They're fired. They committed assault of I don't know how many different kinds of assault, conspiracy to cover up, and a bunch of other awful things, and they got fired. This happens all the time, day in, day out. If you or I, the common regular citizen, had done but a tenth of any of this stuff, there wouldn't be we just get fired from our jobs. Our jobs would fire us. We would be arrested. We'd be sitting in prison, and we'd have a criminal record. Wouldn't be you're fired. You're fired. But don't worry, we're not going to tell anyone who you are, and we're not going to say what happened. But on Monday, each former officer appeared in court when making their pleas, wearing jumpsuits with the names of jails covered by tape, so they won't even tell you where they are, where they're being held. Oh my goodness, unbelievable. If it was you or I enjoyed the view of seeing the walk of shame head down, the disgust everybody felt for them and what they felt for themselves, Parker said after the former officers were led away in shackles. I hope this is a lesson to everybody out there. Justice will be served. I'm sorry, sir, but that's not true. The only reason that these guys, that this is even happening to these fools, these pieces of scum, these dirt, these mud on the bottom of my shoe, is because they've been caught. And they were caught this time. And they were only caught because, let's see if we get to it. But it's either in this story or one of the other ones, excuse me, that I pulled up for you guys. But they were only caught because, we read it. One of the officers came forward and was like, we lied. Now, why did he do that? Why he did that, the information is scarce on why he did that. That was a while later. There must have been some heat that they're not saying. They're not saying, but they're probably, maybe their body cameras had been turned off and they weren't supposed to be turned off, or maybe the body cameras were even on and they tried to get rid of the footage, and there was something going on in internal affairs, and heat was coming on them because these officers, the one that came forward, which is they're not naming because it could put him in danger and his family. Not that. Well, no one's innocent family should have to pay for their sins. But the only reason these guys are being caught is because one of them came forward. They already got these guys. They already beat these guys, arrested these guys, and had these guys written up on charges. In fact, hold on. Let's get to that. According to the federal indictment, because this is adding more detail about the beating, Parker was staying at the home of a longtime friend. Okay, so one of the black guys was staying there, was at the home in question, and it was a friend of his, and Jenkins was there temporarily. So maybe a friend of both of theirs, because I mean, this person would not have had some random person staying in their house. One of the officers received a complaint from one of his white neighbors that some quote-unquote suspicious black men had been staying at the property. So some nosy white neighbor was, hey, there's some people there I don't recognize. I don't know who they are, but they look suspicious. Oh, we all know this thing. All my fellow Israelite brethren and sistren, we know what that feels like. Most of us have been the victim of a similar situation. You're minding your own business, and someone's like, "Hey, I haven't seen you around here before. Who are you?" That night, so the same time, when the call was made, the officer reached out to a group of officers and asked if they were available for a mission according to the complaint. So he's like, oh, the suspicious black guy. Well, y'all available for a mission? I got a call about some suspicious, probably inward. There's some suspicious inward around the property. Y'all ready for a mission? Let's go do something. The officers burst into the home, right? So we already know they had no warrant. They didn't say, hey, police. They just busted in, handcuffed the guys, and shocked them with stun guns. So that's when it began. They just burst in and began the torture. The torture began immediately. The group, so more than one officer, the group shouted commands at them, used racial slurs, inward this, inward that, and assaulted the men with an SEX toy. What kind of wicked, depraved mind does one have to have? Can you imagine being in this situation, being the victims, you just trying to survive? Okay, if I just don't resist, because that's what conservatives love to say. They love to say, if you guys just don't resist, if you just follow the officer's orders, none of this would have happened. If you just don't fight them, you won't win. Fight them in court. Okay, so now apply that to this. Apply that to, okay, they were being tased. Oh, don't do anything. Don't resist. Just fight them in court. You're not going to win. Oh, they're being assaulted with a sex toy. Wow, someone have to bleep that out. They're being assaulted with an SEX toy. Oh, just take it. Just take it. Don't fight them. You won't win. Just take it. Fight them in court. Apply that to this, but they won't. They're not going to apply that to this. That's why none of them to date. I've been watching, but to date, no major conservative, no person on the right of any kind of influence has spoken on this story. I noticed the media has been kind of quiet on it too, the main media, anyways. But no major conservative outlet or a major independent conservative outlet has spoken on this. Because this flies in the face of the blue nonsense that they're always spewing. So yeah, they're not going to touch this. And if any of them happen to touch it, which they won't, but if they did, then the most you're going to hear from them is, these are those bad apples that we're talking about. Those like 0.00001% of bad apples, because you have them everywhere. Okay, they're just bad people in some places sometimes. Yeah, this is not indicative of a problem in policing. And I'm going to show you in a minute how this is, of course. I know so many of the brethren and the sistren know this. So many fellow Israelites know this already. But, for people that are on here that might come across this video that don't know, I'm going to show you just even in this story alone why this is a problem indicative of just policing in general. So continuing, one officer demanded to know where the drugs were and fired a bullet into a wall, the complaint said. So he's like, can you imagine? Just picture if this was a Western, like some old Western or a movie set in the 1940s or something. A bunch of cops come in and kick in the door. All right, boy. Where are the drugs at? What drugs? There ain't no drugs here. There ain't no. Oh, you're gonna tell me where the drugs are? All right, get on the ground. I'm gonna tase you. I'm gonna. Oh, what you doing? Come on. What you doing? Why you tasing me? Shut up. Are you resisting arrest? And it goes on. Imagine. Can you laugh on? Imagine. Okay, going down. At one point, the officers, quote, poured milk, alcohol, and chocolate syrup on their faces and into their mouths, the complaint said. One officer also poured cooking grease on Parker's head. Another threw eggs at the men. These hogs. These pigs. Yeah. These pigs, these swine. The officers used a wooden kitchen implement, a metal sword. So there was a sword owner in the house, I guess. And pieces of wood to beat Parker, the complaint said. So they were, I mean, this is like a humiliation ritual. That's what this is. I mean, they're beating these men. They're dumping grease and cooking stuff on them. They're almost said it again. They are actually assaulting these people. Records obtained by the Associated Press show stun guns used by the deputies were turned on, turned off, or used dozens of times during a roughly 65-minute period before Jenkins was shot. So they were tasing the man, oh my gosh. The horrific, and it is horrific, people, the horrific incident culminated in a mock execution when one officer fired a bullet in Jenkins' mouth, which lacerated his tongue, broke his jaw, and exited his neck, the complaint said. So all these fools, and I'm picking on conservatives right now, all these fools on the right that will say things, again, like just don't fight them. Just if they're even if they're mistreating you, if they're doing you wrong or you're innocent, don't fight them. Fight it in court because you won't win. Don't fight them. They will this is what they're telling us to do. This is what they're saying. This is just roll over and take being beaten. All right. Take being shot. When this man is on the ground, I promise you, he thought he was going to die in that moment, fearing for his life. The officer, the pig, puts the gun in his mouth, in Jenkins' mouth, fires, and now his tongue is lacerated, his jaw is broken, and the bullet went out of his neck. So just take it. What? First off, if these men are suing, by the way, and they should win. But what amount of money is going to put a price? What amount of money is going to take away this humiliation, this shame, and the damage that has been done? There's too much damage that has been done. I mean, victims of RAPE alone, there are entire support groups and organizations dedicated to helping them get through the trauma of just that. Which of course is good. Not mocking or knocking on that at all. The point is, these men not only were RAPED, but they were beaten and almost killed. The guy was shot in the face, supposing it had gone into his brain or severed his jugular or something. Imagine the trauma that these guys are gonna carry around. And no, don't give me that. Oh, well, they're men. Nah, man. The trauma that these guys are going to carry around now is. If they get $5 million a piece, that's not going to erase the trauma and the horror of this. And as I said earlier in this video, this is indicative. This is nothing new. As the title of this video even says, this is nothing new for police. And this is indicative of the ongoing problem with police. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay. All right. Now, what officers try to cover up their misconduct. One officer ordered the men to strip naked and shower off to wash away evidence of abuse. According to the complaint, the officers then planted and tampered with evidence to corroborate their false cover story and cover up their misconduct, it said. The officers submitted fraudulent drug evidence to the crime lab, filed false reports, charged Jenkins with crimes he did not commit, made false statements to investigators, pressured witnesses. Oh my gosh. Pressured witnesses to stick to the cover story, planted a gun, and destroyed video evidence, shell casings, and stun gun cartridges, according to the complaint. Okay, so part of the indicative problem, right? They covered it up, which any criminal might do, of course. But the problem with police comes in that they cover it up. They can cover it up. Then they can submit. They plant evidence, right? They planted false evidence, and then they submitted fraudulent drug evidence to the crime lab, right? It was, well, because when people tell you, well, they have to go through a process. They can't just cover stuff up, and yes, they can. It's very, very easy for them to do. They submitted false evidence to the crime lab, filed false reports, and we know that an officer's report, for some reason, is like almost like a legal document. Well, it is a legal document, and it's nothing more than the officer saying on a piece of paper, okay, so I did this, they did this, this is what happened, and that's all it is. And they count as legal documents. So they filed false reports, which were accepted, of course, and then they charged these victims with crimes. Oh my! Well, it says in this story, it says they charged one of the victims with crimes. I guess probably the guy that they shot, because he would have been shot, so they would have had to say something like, he came at me with a gun, because they planted a gun. They planted false weapons and such, so they would just, he had a gun, and I feared for my life and shot. And a bunch of these people on the right would be, well, don't have a gun, don't have drugs in the house, don't da 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 da. Because they would say the officers found drugs. They found drug evidence. They submitted this evidence to the crime labs. They wrote in all of their reports. Their reports said this. That's what these fools on the right would say to you, would tell you. And for anyone wondering, when I'm talking about the right and criticizing the right for which they deserve, that does not automatically mean that I'm on the left. I am neither a member of the right nor a member of the left. So I'm going to put that out there right now, and I will be criticizing each of them in turn when need arises. But for this is generally a problem specific to the right. They're the ones that are like, back the blue, just just listen to the officer, even if they're torturing you, even if they're going to be actually assaulting you, just take it. That's them. And they would say all of this stuff counts as legal. It would count as legal, not the crime itself, but the fact that these officers submitted things that would stand up in court. And the officers plead guilty to federal charges. Yada yada. We already got that. Okay, so this is where we're going to get to now. Officers accused of previous misconduct. The family of another black man, Damian Cameron, maintains deputies knelt on his back and neck for several minutes at a scene before he died in police custody in 2021. A grand jury declined to charge Elward over the incident. So one of the officers already had prior complaints against him. And this is something you will find on about 99.9% of these stories. If an officer is brutalizing someone, show me the officer that brutalized the person, and I will show you history of allegations against this officer. It's like clockwork. Okay, and the grand jury, the guy died, in 2021, and the grand jury was like, just didn't charge him. And so he was allowed to continue doing, what he was doing best, which was torturing people, killing people. Elward and another deputy were the responding officer. Remember, Elward was one of the guys of this goon squad. Elward and another deputy were responding officers at the fatal 2019 shooting of Pierre Woods. Okay, so this is another one. In 2020, another black man, Carvis Johnson, sued the department and accused Dedman. So notice all the different names. It's not just one of these officers, man. It's not just one. So when they say, it's just a bad apple in the bunch, no, man, no. First off, one bad apple spoils the bunch. That's the first thing. But secondly, it's not just one bad apple. Sued the department and accused Dedman of placing a gun in his mouth during a drug bust in 2019. Dedman, Elward, and Opdyke have also pleaded guilty to using excessive force in a separate incident last year. In the incident, Dedman beat and used a stun gun on a white man and fired a gun near his head to coerce a confession, while Edward and Opdyke failed to intervene. And this is something else that I find very interesting. Where is it? Here it is. Deadman beat and used a stun gun on a white man. Okay. Now I'm I'm not white. I'm an Israelite in America. But this white man deserves justice just the same. And this is a problem you will find with conservatives. White conservatives, especially, I'm speaking about in this particular sentence. White conservatives will sacrifice this guy right here. They will sacrifice this white guy that was brutalized by the police because it will destroy in order to protect the blind back the blue narrative. They will sacrifice this guy. White conservatives specifically will sacrifice other white people being brutalized. We know of that there have been white people brutalized by police, and that happens too. The police brutalize everyone. But they'll sacrifice this guy. They won't talk about this guy. Or if he gave a confession, he had a coerced confession, they'll say, hey, I mean, it wasn't right, but the guy was a criminal. So, it all just to protect the back to blue narrative. Disgusting. But I want you guys for focusing on this, and I'm about to close this out, but this is, these officers had the prior misconduct that they had been accused of and guilty of, as far as I'm concerned, because they're even pleading, yeah, I did it in these statements. They have been doing this for goodness knows how long, and it was documented, and they were still on the force, still running around, still capable of stopping you for jaywalking. Sir, why didn't you cross the road at that crosswalk? I'm gonna have to write you a citation. Sir, why are you doing that? Sir, why are you going 5 miles over the speed limit? I'm going to have to give you a ticket and write you up. The wickedness. And on that that note, right? Hold on. Okay, one of these guys, because let me show you the picture first of all, and then I was done this. Here it is. If I can get the mouse to do what I want it to. Okay, this is the picture of this scum, these scumbags. Because all 6 of these guys are scum. Okay, they're scum. They're the dirt on the bottom of your shoe, and they, as far as I'm concerned, what they did to these innocent black men should be done to them. All the torture they inflicted should be inflicted upon them, and then they should be locked up. All these guys have the power to pull you over or stop you from minding your own business and question you and arrest you if you say, hey, I'm minding my own business, leave me alone. Okay, there's one I want to find in particular. Okay, pictured top left to right, Jeffrey Middleton. So this guy. Okay, something about him, because again, it's indicative. People will say, well, the conservatives will say, oh, it's not all officers, and if it happens, it's stopped. Former Jackson police officer sentenced. Okay, so this is an article from March 2007. A former Jackson police officer involved in a fatal crash 2 years ago has been sentenced to probation. The victim, 23-year-old Desmond Harris of Jackson, died when his car was hit by a police cruiser driven by patrolman Jeffrey Middleton. In June of 2005. So 2005 it happened. 2007, 2 years later, they were like, well, okay, give him probation. Middleton had just dropped off a prisoner and was driving north on Highway 18 when his patrol car slammed into Harris's car. The officer pleaded guilty Monday to vehicular manslaughter with culpable negligence. Wait. Culpable negligence? So then it wasn't just an accident? Or it wasn't, are you saying that the officer was in the wrong? Huh? Officer who ran red light. The story thickens, you see. This article's August 10th, 2010. So we keep moving years later. This stuff doesn't just, when it happens, and it's the police officer, none of it happened. They're not stopped. Nothing happens to them over the course of, how was that, 5-ish years? From 2005 now to 2010, this guy, it took for all this to come out. Officer who ran red light cost city $500K. Jackson, Mississippi must pay $500,000 to the family of a man killed by a police officer who drove 87 miles per hour through a red light, the Mississippi Supreme Court ruled. Desmond Harris, we just read about him, died when his Pontiac Grand was hit by the police car driven by Officer Jeffrey Middleton, who had not activated his siren or flashing lights at the time of the crash. So he was speeding, hadn't activated his lights, ran through a red light, breaking the law that if you ran that red light, he would have flipped a U-turn, flashed his lights, pulled you over, and given you a ticket. 4. That if you had done, you'd be either paying a ticket or in jail. And he killed someone because of it. Middleton was not responding to a police call, so he was totally breaking the law. Completely illegal. He was on his way to the hospital to provide insurance information to an injured driver. Middleton lost his job. Listen to this. Middleton lost his job and was convicted of culpable negligence manslaughter in the wake of the accident. The Harris family sued the city for wrongful death. Jackson claimed immunity under the Mississippi Tort Claims Act, which I may or may not do a video on this or similar acts. We'll see. But the trial court ruled for the Harris family, and the state court affirmed. We agree that Middleton acted with reckless disregard for the safety of others, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, and this is why I say it's not a new thing, it's an ongoing problem. So 2005, this guy from 2005, he manslaughtered this guy. He ran a red light, crashed into this innocent person who was minding his own business and killed him. And if it had been me, if it had been you or I, we would have been sitting in a cell, okay? This officer would have arrested us. Middleton would have arrested us, dragged us to jail, and our bond would have been set at goodness knows how high after killing someone. Imagine if we had run that red light speeding and killed someone, you or I, okay? And this is an indicative problem, traced all the way back from 2005. The right will not touch this story. No, I'm not even going to go there. But the right is the conservatives, especially the white conservatives, are not going to touch this story because the officers, it's bad. Let me tell you how when you know it's really bad. You know it's bad when the police officers, take a plea deal. When they're like, okay, I'll plead guilty. I just want a deal. You know it is bad. You know it's bad when they take a plea deal, or if they're charged immediately. And a charge, we all know a charge doesn't always stick. And also, I want to see these officers. I want to see the end result of this story. We're going to watch for the end result of how this thing really turns out. But yeah, this is nothing new. The police have been like this. They will continue to be like this until there's something serious done, some serious changes. And don't let anyone tell you that it's only a bad apple, or it only happens sometimes. The only reason that these guys are now off the streets is because they were caught, and probably, I don't know, but like I said earlier, probably because the guy who snitched on them, there was some heat coming on from internal affairs or something. Oh my goodness. But all right, that's all for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Let me know what you guys think. So do you think the sentencing is too harsh, or the charges, are too harsh and too not harsh enough? What do you think should happen to these officers? What about the poor victims in this situation? Anything to say for them? And what are your thoughts on policing? I'd like to know. All right, this is the American Israelite signing out.